So look, one fintech stumbling in the cash flow underwriting world isn't a story, but I do talk to plenty of fintechs and bank lenders, and I haven't seen an example with my own eyes yet of a cash flow based lender who's really killing it. And by killing it, I mean like just producing tons and tons of new customers. So that's what doesn't add up to me. Welcome to Affiliate Marketing for Lenders. I'm your host, Carlos Caro. Banks spend billions of dollars per year advertising in affiliate channels. It's a complex, high-stakes game, and I'm here to guide you through it. If you're a lender that wants to grow your affiliate program, you're in the right place. Let's dig in. What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about cash flow underwriting and some of the challenges I see lenders have that are distributing their products through affiliate marketplaces. I actually wrote an article on this recently. It was published in a newsletter I'm contributing to. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's called The Free Toaster, and the newsletter is effectively a combination of news, data, insights, all geared towards marketers at banks. And I wrote this piece, and for today's podcast, I'm going to do something a little different. I usually just kind of narrate episodes kind of off the cuff. Today, since I wrote this longer form piece on cash flow underwriting, I'll read it to you. I may not just go verbatim. You know, I don't want to sound like a robot or anything while I'm doing this. And then I'll close with some lessons I think here we extract for marketers in general that are building affiliate programs. I think there's some universal lessons here we can extract. So before I get into that, so I want to share something I just bumped into last week. A colleague of mine took the piece I wrote. It's titled, "Where's the Consumer Demand for Cash Flow Underwriting?" And they threw it into, apparently this is a Google product called Notebook LM. This thing produced a 6-minute back and forth podcast style interview, like a man and a woman describing, like having a casual conversation about the insights in the article. And it kind of blew me away how good it was in kind of sussing out the key pieces of the story and really just generating an engaging conversation about the topic. But here we go, let's roll it.
All right, so today we are really diving into the world of fintech lending.
Okay.
And specifically something that's being talked about a lot called cash flow underwriting.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of our listeners have heard of credit scores.
Yeah.
CFU is kind of like this, it's like the new kid on the block trying to figure out a better way to underwrite loans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe even potentially replacing credit scores.
Yeah.
And you sent over this article, "Where's the Consumer Demand for Cash Flow Underwriting?"
Yes.
by Carlos Carrero, and he seems to be a little bit skeptical.
Well, yeah, and I think what's interesting about this whole cash flow underwriting thing is that it really aims to assess your financial health based on what you actually do,
Right.
not just a score.
Right.
It's like looking at your income, your spending habits.
Yeah, it's like judging you based on your actions rather than just this arbitrary number.
Exactly. And you know, think about the potential impact.
Yeah.
This could be huge for people who maybe have struggled to build a traditional credit score.
Yeah. And the article gives this really interesting example of a lender called Petal,
Right.
who went all in on cash flow underwriting.
Okay.
They had the funding,
Mm-hmm.
but then they hit a wall and ended up having to sell off their portfolio.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if a company with that much momentum couldn't make it work. What does that say about cash flow underwriting as a whole?
Well, it really highlights what I think is the biggest challenge for cash flow underwriting, and that is distribution. Building a great product is one thing, but actually getting it into the hands of consumers in a way that makes business sense
Yeah.
is proving to be really tough.
So let's dig into this whole distribution problem.
Okay.
Because the article points to marketing as being a major pain point for CFU lenders.
Yeah.
With traditional lending, it's easy. They just use your credit score to target you.
Right.
But CFU lenders, they need your actual bank data,
Right.
which, you know, not everyone's comfortable handing over.
It's a big ask.
Yeah, like giving them the keys to your financial kingdom.
Exactly. And it makes their marketing so much harder.
Right.
Think about direct mail.
Yeah.
It's like a staple of traditional lending. But CFU lenders would need your banking data just to even send you a targeted mailer.
Yeah, imagine that.
Can you imagine?
Getting junk mail asking for your bank login.
That's a hard pass from me.
Right, and it's not just direct mail. It's like everything.
Yeah.
Think about paid spokesman. Search those targeted ads you see online.
Right.
Those work because lenders use keywords to find people who are already searching for loans.
Right.
But CFU lenders are targeting a different group of people.
Right. People who may not even be thinking about a loan yet.
Exactly. It's like they're trying to reach people who haven't even realized they need their product yet.
Yeah, and the article calls this high friction marketing.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly fighting an uphill battle.
Right.
And not only that, but that friction, it translates into higher costs for these CFU lenders.
Absolutely.
Which makes it even harder to compete with the big players in the lending space.
Exactly. And, this is where I think the story of Petal becomes even more interesting.
Yeah, because imagine trying to launch a new product
Yeah.
in a system that's practically designed to keep you out.
Yeah, like the rules of the game are just stacked against you.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if it was even possible for them to succeed.
Right. It kind of makes their downfall seem almost inevitable.
In a way, yeah.
But it also makes you question, is CFU even compatible with the way we think about credit and lending right now?
That's a really good question.
Like, are we trying to force a square peg into a round hole?
It's possible because we've been so conditioned to think of credit scores as this gatekeeper
Right.
to financial products.
Yeah.
But CFU represents a completely different way of thinking.
Right. It's like a paradigm shift.
Exactly. And it's not just about technology. It's about psychology, too.
Yeah, because you're asking people to basically hand over their financial lives.
Exactly.
It's like asking someone to marry you on the first date.
Right. Like, who would say yes to that?
Exactly. It's just too much too soon.
And it triggers this natural instinct to protect what's yours.
Our information, our data.
Exactly. And, we've seen data breaches, we've seen privacy scandals.
Right.
So it's no wonder people are hesitant.
So it's like this catch-22.
Exactly.
People are hesitant to share their data because they don't understand the benefits.
Right.
But you can't really demonstrate those benefits without the data.
It's the classic chicken and egg problem.
So are we stuck? Is there any way to break out of this cycle? So where do we go from here?
Well, the article suggests that maybe instead of trying to make CFU work within the existing system,
Right.
we need to look for places where it's already a natural fit.
Okay.
And one example that Carlos brings up is open banking.
Open banking.
Yeah, these platforms where consumers are already choosing to share their financial data.
Right, with these third-party apps.
Exactly.
So they've already sort of made that leap of trust.
They've said, okay, I'm willing to share this information
Right.
in exchange for whatever service or benefit I'm getting.
And those platforms already have the security in place.
Exactly. They've figured out the whole data privacy thing.
So you wouldn't have that same barrier of like, hey, give me your bank login.
It's much more seamless.
Okay, so maybe that's the key.
Maybe.
Finding those places where people are already open to this.
Right, where it feels like a natural extension of what they're already doing.
Instead of trying to force it on everyone.
Exactly. Meet
Very.
consumers where they are.
But even then, it still feels like a big jump. Are we really ready for a world where our spending habits are more important than a credit score?
It's a good question, and I don't think anyone knows for sure.
Right.
But I do think that sometimes technology have a way of just kind of...
Sneaking up on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, remember when buying things online seemed crazy?
Right, and now everyone does it.
I mean, I order groceries from my phone.
It's true, things change fast.
So maybe CFU is kind of the same way?
Maybe it's just a matter of time.
It's been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Clearly, CFU has the potential to really shake things up.
It does,
But it's facing an uphill battle.
for sure.
It's like technology is moving faster than our systems, and even our mindsets can keep up with.
It's a common theme, isn't it?
It really is.
But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
So the next time you see an ad for some new financial product,
Yes.
or you hear someone talking about open banking, remember this conversation.
Because we might be on the verge of a financial revolution.
And the choices that we make about our data are trust.
Our willingness to embrace new ideas.
That's going to determine what the future of finance looks like.
Exactly. It's up to us to decide.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the possibilities.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us for another thought-provoking deep dive.
Okay, and we're back. So it was pretty cool, wasn't it? I mean, look, I don't think it got everything perfect. It kind of went off on some stuff around open banking I don't think I necessarily wrote or intended to say, but dang, it was pretty close. And, for something that was produced in like 30 seconds, I'm impressed. Here's the headline. I'm starting to worry that we don't have an economically viable way to distribute cash flow underwriting products to consumers. But before I dig in further, I do want to make this clear. I am not a cash flow underwriting hater. It's actually quite the opposite. I'd love for it to work. Reason being, I think demand for my business, it's a marketing agency called New Market Growth, could increase as a result. But something isn't adding up for me. If we start at the 30,000 foot level, I see a bunch of products like Cash Atlas, which is issued by Nova Credit, Prism Data, Plaid Check, that are offering lenders these like cash flow underwriting, cash flow data type products. And they're raising big money. So for example, Nova Credit raised a 45 million Series C last year to keep building their data platform. And while all this is happening, cash flow lenders like Petal have stumbled. They launched in 2016, raised 300 million in equity capital, and then sold off their portfolio for an amount that was not disclosed to Empower of April of this year. And I linked out both to the article there on the portfolio sale and to the Cash Atlas, Prism Data, and Plaid Check products in the show notes if you're interested in reading more. But back to Petal, all signs point to a distressed sale there, where the VCs backing Petal, I'm guessing, didn't hit their target returns. So look, one fintech stumbling in the cash flow underwriting world isn't a story. But I do talk to plenty of fintechs and bank lenders, and I haven't seen an example with my own eyes yet of a cash flow based lender who's really killing it. And by killing it, I mean like just producing tons and tons of new customers. So that's what doesn't add up to me. So that's what doesn't add up. But these B2B cash flow underwriting products are buzzy. But without the lenders that are booking lots and lots of new customers, can these B2B providers keep growing? So before I lay out the challenges and potential solutions, let's take a step back here and review why cash flow underwriting exists, some of the problems it could solve, and some of the challenges folks are already discussing. Okay, so here's kind of a one-on-one on cash flow. If you're new to this, I'd recommend you check out an article that Alex Johnson wrote. It's called Everything You Wanted to Know About Cash Flow Underwriting But Were Afraid to Ask. All right, it's nearly 5,000 words and a 20-minute read. So if you don't have time to read that article, I'm going to share some of the highlights here, and I'm going to quote some of the pieces here. So let's start with Alex's definition of cash flow underwriting. So quote, cash flow underwriting is the use of cash flow data to evaluate and price the risk of credit default in a manner that is compliant with applicable laws and regulations. Okay, so my version of that is lenders are looking at the money going in and out of your checking account and deciding if you're going to pay them back. Alex talks about why he thinks this innovation is exciting. Quote, according to the CFPB, there are roughly 26 million credit invisible adults in the US and another 10 million who lack sufficient credit data to be scorable using traditional models. End quote. I hear that as tons of people don't have access to credit through traditional credit bureau underwriting. And lending to these people, whether it be through cash flow underwriting or other means, is a big opportunity for lenders and the B2B providers that enable it. So cash flow data predicts risk, and it's orthogonal to credit bureau data. That's pretty intuitive to me, and I think for most credit risk pros. But if you're not convinced, check out Alex's article. He's got some really good charts from Prism Data that I think make the case. So to recap so far, cash flow underwriting is an alternative data source that banks use to underwrite loans. A big population, at least 36 million US adults, could benefit from this technology. And the data shows that cash flow underwriting works. It helps banks distinguish no FICO customers who will and won't pay back. But I don't think this is flowers and sunshine. Neither does Alex. He points out some challenges in bringing this to life. So let's talk about those challenges. One is the user experience. It requires consumer permissioned access to banking data, and this is currently clunky in the US and will frustrate some people. Two, the depth of history. So lenders love these long, lengthy data sets of performance, and they just don't simply have that right now. They don't have decades of performance reads on these cash flow models like they do with credit bureau models. So this is going to make them nervous to go big. Secondary use, and here's where I think Alex drops a bomb in the article. Apparently the CFPB's draft rule on open banking prohibits using cash flow data for secondary use. So this could be a major blocker when you start thinking about how lenders bring products to market. It means it could be difficult or impossible to use cash flow data at the marketing stage. So we're going to dig into this further. Consumer education. People understand how FICO works and are comfortable with using it. I don't think people have a clue in general about cash flow underwriting, and we're not sure how they're going to feel when they learn more about it. And furthermore, when banks ask them to hand over data in exchange for potentially a line of credit. So on the compliance side, a lender will, let's just think about this. A lender is going to know whether you're the type of person who frequents, the local fast food joint or the local organic market, whether you shop at Walmart or Saks Fifth Avenue. None of this stuff necessarily predicts risk, but they will in theory have access to it. So now we have to start thinking about how banks comply with Reg B, ECOA. These laws prohibit lenders from discriminating against protected classes, even if it's unintentional. So then consider machine learning layered on top of this, which is also prone to use data in unintended ways. So there's some rabbit holes here from a compliance standpoint. And then lastly, securitization. Some lenders sell loans off into secondary markets, and those secondary markets use FICO as a scorecard to price those loans. Now, if we remove FICOs from these loans, how will these markets clear? Okay. So we're kind of addressing some of the concerns Alex points out in his article. The elephant in the room here. Earlier I said I haven't seen a single example of a cash flow based lender who's really growing rapidly as far as new account bookings. I think the reason is because selling a cash flow based underwriting product is very high friction today. And that makes a performance marketer's job hard as hell in the most common marketing channels. So let's illustrate this by thinking through how a lender would bring a cash flow product to market in direct mail, paid search, and affiliates. Let's start with direct mail. So normally, lenders build audiences using a combination of credit and response models. So the attributes they need sit at the credit bureau, lenders send the credit bureau criteria, and they kind of receive a list of names and addresses back. These audiences squeak out a good enough cost of acquisition to make the channel worthwhile. I think the cash flow lenders here are going to have a challenge though. The criteria they need to underwrite this audience, the cash flow data, doesn't sit at the credit bureaus. So to get this data, they're going to have to get permission, usernames and passwords typically from users. But again, they don't know which users to go ask for this yet. They can't exactly stand up a campaign to go get the data. And if they ask everyone, their marketing budgets will blow up and their CACs will be sky high. And now let's recall the CFPB's draft rule on secondary use that we talked about above. That could block marketers from using cash flow data in a pre-screen or a marketing stage content. So we have a problem. Let's go to paid search here. This is a little different. Here, cash flow based lenders are competing against incumbents that use credit bureau data. So they bid on terms like credit card, low FICO, personal loan, no credit. These tend to be subprime providers. They've been at it for years. They know what terms to bid on. And given the competition, their marketing funnels are optimized. They minimize friction. You'll often see these lenders use one-page application forms after a consumer clicks on an ad. Traditional lenders know that if they don't convert that customer quickly, their paid click could vaporize into Google's bank account. A cash flow lender, on the other hand, could produce the best ad copy, the best landing pages, a killer product, and offer an unsecured loan that serves customers with thin credit files. So far, so good. But what happens when the cash flow lender pops the big question? Please provide the user name and password for your bank account. This is when consumers are going to balk. Who wants to give a fintech lender they've never heard of access to their checking account? Low conversion rates will drive up CACs. A higher CAC means CFU lenders can afford to bid less on each keyword. Bidding less on each keyword means they'll fight for the leftovers that the traditional lenders leave behind. So again, Houston, we have a problem. Now let's go to affiliates. Modern day affiliates like Credit Karma, Experian, Credit Sesame, Wallet Hub, NerdWallet, and others have built products that help customers get approval certainty before they apply. That means consumers compare products that they're likely to be approved for, creating a great shopping experience. Now let's think about this from the cash flow lender's perspective. They lend to the customers the traditional lenders won't consider or would normally decline. That's attractive to the affiliate marketplaces. It helps them serve more customers. But when the affiliate marketplaces ask the cash flow based lenders for the targeting rules, they're only going to be able to provide the logic based on the cash flow data. And because these marketplaces don't have access to that cash flow data, these lenders can't deploy a targeting strategy that's competitive with the traditional lenders. Remember, these traditional lenders are dialed into the audience that they can serve, and they're getting 70, 80% plus approval rates. These cash flow based lenders won't be able to compete with that. Their approval rates are going to be much lower, and as a result, they're going to get a lot less demand and impression volume from these affiliates. So the upshot, it's going to be challenging for the affiliates to promote the cash flow based products with a high approval certainty. That suggests cash flow based products will have lower click through rates. Furthermore, many customers will drop off when the lender finally asks for their login to their checking account. So I expect these cash flow based product marketing funnels to be uncompetitive in the near term. And that's because a lower click through rate and a lower application rate will compound to a lower throughput for the affiliate. This suggests the affiliates will favor displaying the traditional channels when they have a choice. So we do have a problem in that channel too. So where do we go from here? So like I said at the top of the article, rooting for products in this category to gain traction. I say that because it helps serve customers who wouldn't otherwise have access to credit, and it opens up opportunities for fintech lenders, and it's great for marketplaces. It helps them serve more customers with high quality loan offers. High quality, and what by that I mean typically low cost, because oftentimes these folks next best alternative is a payday type very high interest loan. So the big question, so how do we get these cash flow based underwriting products into customers' hands at scale in an economically viable way? So I don't think we have a good answer to that question quite yet. I do think the answer will include three things. One is distribution channels that can use cash flow data at the marketing stage to identify what consumers qualify. Two, reducing the application friction and consumer permissioned access to checking and deposit accounts. And then third, educating customers about the value and safety in sharing their cash flow information with lenders. So I think it's a combination of those three things that can unlock the consumer growth in this category. And until we crack that, more risk prediction, better data processing, all that sort of innovation is not going to help. Without low-cost, efficient distribution that competes with traditional lending products, this cash flow underwriting category is going to remain niche and may not live up to its full potential. If you're interested in solving this problem in affiliates specifically, I would love to chat. I've thought about this from both sides of the market, and I have some ideas on things that both lenders and affiliate channels can do to bring this to life. So lastly, I'll mention on October 7th, Plaid and Moneyline jointly announced Later in Consumer Report. It's a solution that seems to address some of the distribution challenges raised in this article. And I was able to contact Tim Hong at Moneyline. He's the chief product officer over there. And I actually just recently recorded the episode with him. So that'll be the next podcast that you will see published here on the show. Just kind of give you a candid look on how Tim thinks about this and some of the cool things they're building to enable cash flow lenders to distribute their products in like a really clean, low friction way. I think they're onto something here and have really started to address some of the challenges I've laid out here in today's show. So zooming up here for a second. So if you're not a cash flow based lender, what can you take away from kind of this example and some of the challenges? I think there's really two things to think about here. So one is if you use custom data on your back end, and that may be a custom version of FICO. It might be, and by I mean a custom version, like a version only you use, not kind of the off-the-shelf FICO or credit score, but like a custom risk score that you've built, a custom attribute, like a particular way to calculate delinquency or utilization, something like that. Or it could potentially even be like an outside data source, so like a non-credit bureau piece of data that you buy that you process when making an underwriting decision. Anything you're using on the back end to make the decision, if your affiliate partners don't have access to it, it's going to create incremental declines for you and your program that some of the other more seasoned competitors that are vying for consumer attention in these marketplaces just won't have, because they've taken the effort to align their front end and their back end models. And they're sometimes going to be seeing 85% plus gross approval rates through kind of aligning front end and back end models. And anything you're doing on the back end that the affiliate can't match on the front end is going to create drag for you on the approval rate. So it's just something to keep in mind. And then the second lesson here is if you have any kind of friction beyond a one-page application and just an instant decision, so if you're requiring documents or some kind of open banking integration or some other information that you need from a user that requires them to give you information, to have a conversation with you, that creates real effort or friction for the customer, it's going to put you at a disadvantage, because almost everyone that's winning in affiliates has been for years removing friction in their application flows, because they figured out that the less friction they have, the more impressions and the better rankings they're getting in these affiliate marketplaces, and therefore the better select, kind of positive select and kind of loss performance that they see on the loans. So oftentimes it's beneficial to kind of not worry about that incremental data, especially if it's on the margins. In a lot of cases, you'd be better off tuning your model to just perfectly match the affiliate versus worrying about getting that incremental 1 or 2% boost in your risk model's predictions. So those I think would be the two things to take away from just extrapolating here from the cash flow use case. So I encourage you to check out the conversation with Tim if you're curious in learning more about how MoneyLion and particularly their Spark and Engine platform are solving this challenge for lenders. So lastly, I'll close. If you'd like to support the channel, please share this episode with someone in your network or on social media. Leave a review for us in the platform where you found the show, or lastly, just give me feedback on what you think is working and not working. Appreciate you spending the time to me today, and I'll see you soon.